Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with the top 5 hidden gems for 2018. It's been a fantastic year for AAA with the likes of God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the list goes on. But don't forget about the little guys, the sneaky releases there that are also high quality games. I'm gonna be going over 5 of my favorite that dropped this year. I encourage you to share your list in the comments down below, and let's start off with number 1. Magic the Gathering Arena. Now I know not everyone here likes their card games, so I'll have another suggestion later on in the video, but it's just really nice to have a traditional card game like Magic the Gathering available in an online form. And I think they did something innovative to allow physical card games to work in the real world, but also in the shift to a digital medium, because that's sort of what's gradually killed these card games. So pretty much if you buy a real pack of cards in Magic the Gathering, you actually get a code which you can submit online in the game and earn a pack in there. So it keeps you tied to the physical game as well as the digital game. Now personally, I love Dragon Ball Super, the card game. That's the one I consider myself good at and that I play a lot of. I played a little bit of Magic the Gathering and I'm by no means an expert, but pretty much for those who have no idea how to play Magic, the game does explain it fairly well, but it's as simple as charging energy, aka field cards, and playing cards that work with that energy type and amount. Just the short and sweet version there. But the game rewards you well for a free-to-play title. It's currently in an open beta. As you roll through all these challenges, the game encourages you to switch up your deck quite a bit. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I have a dozen decks to select from. The game really gifts you with a lot of cards. Now, experienced Magic the Gathering players will likely find themselves feeling the urge to spend money in this game because sometimes they're looking for a more specific build. But if you're looking to kind of casually play, this is the perfect place to be. But hardcore fans, I think, will become enamored with it because it's just more Magic the Gathering. Like I said, it's free to play, rewards you well, and it's just great to have a card game like this available on PC. Next is The Messenger. This is a game available currently only on the Nintendo Switch, and what a indie gem this is. A soundtrack that makes you head nod the entire time, clearly inspired by the old Ninja Gaiden games, but this one has a twist. Since you're The Messenger, you're able to transport yourself through space and time, meaning that you go from the 16-bit era back to the 8-bit era, and so on and so forth. This changes up the level design, the enemy design, the music itself. It is a work of art because it's a creative idea that works in universe, allows for multiple gameplay systems. The story is solid, but I think the game's biggest strength is its very quirky and humorous writing. It honestly had me laughing out loud quite a bit because it had just this genuine sarcasm to it that always worked well with someone who is very sarcastic themselves. Normally, gaming humor just falls flat on its face with me all the time. I very rarely laugh while I'm playing games, probably because I'm such a serious individual when it comes to it. But with this game, I was cracking up sometimes. I mean, it's just top tier writing when it comes to that department, and in a unique way, right? Because we're always seeing writing having all these layers and making you think deep and ponder life itself, but this one's just like, hey, here's something really funny to think about. Movement can be buttery smooth sometimes, where if you're using your grappling hook, you're flying a little bit, then you hit an object, do a double jump, because in this game, as you hit objects, you recharge your jump. So it really lets you float on for quite a while, leading to some very intense platforming sections. Speaking of intense, boss fights in this game can get really over the top. Now, I don't want to spoil any of these videos, so I don't want to show them to you, but they get really hard, put all your skills to the test, make you think about every piece of equipment you have at your disposal. There was not a single boss fight that I did not finish without pumping my fist aggressively at my TV like, yeah, take that, I beat you. Number 3, I did not expect this. I did not expect this at all. Crayola Scoot, hear me out. There is a void in this games industry. We don't have skateboarding games for crap. And guess what? The best skate-related game is a Crayola title. And I know you're rolling your eyes. Matty, what are you doing, man? Your career's going down the tubes with this one. Trust me, Crayola Scoot is a fun game. Available on all platforms, released out of complete nowhere. It is a hybrid between Splatoon and the Tony Hawk games, except there's a little skate in it because all the tricks are mapped to the right stick. So not only does it tie all the mechanics together of our childhood, But then the Splatoon mechanic also encourages you to explore all these park settings to their fullest extent. So it's like Tony Hawk in the sense of you're locked into one level rather than a world space, which we've become accustomed to with so many titles nowadays. But then the tricks are like Skate, you move faster in your own, we'll call it Crayola splash. It's just a really satisfying, fun game to play. There's a good amount of modes, and I'm not saying that you should run out and spend the original $40 you have on this title at its launch price. Wait for it to go down. If you see it on a sale, I'm telling you, it's worth the scoop. It's fun, the art style's nice, it's not super buggy like any other skate-related game has dropped in the last year or two. And as I read previews on the internet of this game, no one had a bad time with it. Everyone was like, this is really fun. Just everyone was also collectively asking, where did this come from and why didn't it try to promote itself more? It's like because they were tied with Crayola, they assumed, all right, this one's not going to be that great. But this is one of those games that has a really weird brand tied to it, and it actually worked out extremely well. Seriously, if you got a chance to give this a go, really make sure you do so. Now, we move on over to a favorite title of mine from this year as well, Thronebreaker, The Witcher Tale. This was supposed to be the single-player expansion for Gwent, turned into its own game, and my goodness, I did a full review on this game. I'll have it linked in the description down below for you fine folk. But let me tell you what, Thronebreaker The Witcher Tales is another fine foray for CD Projekt Red. I'm surprised the internet has not gone crazy over this game like they have with anything CD Projekt Red related, because this is depth in a genre you'd never expected. Yes, just like Magic the Gathering, except completely different gameplay system, mind you, it is a card game. But Thronebreaker The Witcher Tales really twists the original Gwent system on its head, constantly creating really unique challenges that even when you think you're used to what the game was throwing at you and how Gwent works, there's always a unique workaround for it. Boss fights like against the Manticore are really satisfying because the way the art is depicted works within the gameplay system, and on top of that provides a challenge to the player on how they have to dish out the damage and what parts they have to take out of said beast. Or maybe you're getting flooded by a commander, tons of enemies are peppering the field, you're starting to get your forces diminished. How do you bounce back from that? The game is constantly challenging you in unique ways based off what's happening in the story. It doesn't really leave a lot to the imagination, in fact, which is one of its best strengths because there's so much art in the game, there's so much voice acting in the game. It really feels like it's not a card game, but you're actually fighting a war and you're the tacticianer at the table trying to strategize and beat your enemy on the opposite side of the battlefield. Anyway, the game also tells a great story, and in true CD Projekt Red fashion, you have a lot of choice and consequence. It has a great pacing of that, where it's not trying to hit you with these dramatic choices one after the other, which eventually wears the gamer down and doesn't really have as much impact because it feels like everything you're doing has to be a dramatic big deal. And when it's less than that, it underwhelms the player, where there are some times that there's just these minor choices that may be a come and go experience. And then when you have peppered in throughout those some of the bigger choices that ripple throughout the story, it makes for a much more powerful experience and has you as the player constantly pondering how you're going to tackle every situation. And since a lot of the people you affect are in card form, there is a direct correlation between choice and gameplay, because that person you're affecting that may leave your group ends up actually being one of your best cards too, and then they leave. Now you're out of your favorite fighter, your game changer, your ace up your sleeve. What do you do now? These are the unique twists that come with Thronebreaker The Witcher Tales, and I simply can't recommend it enough. It started off at $30 for 30 hours of gameplay. There are some ties to the Gwent multiplayer game, some unique cards you can get from Thronebreaker, so that might be up a lot of people's alleys. I just simply can't suggest this one enough. It's one of my favorite games of the entire year. It was another surprise hit, and I really hope that it continues to get the attention it deserves. Last on the list. Yes, it is a re-release, but I don't care. We are talking about The World Ends With You Final Remix. Now, The World Ends With You was formerly a DS game, and it was by the creators of the Kingdom Hearts series. I always described it as kind of a mixture between Persona and Kingdom Hearts. It had the style and the music that reminded me of a Persona game, but it had the character concepts of something straight out of Kingdom Hearts. So why is this game so special? Number 1, for me, I played it for my first time ever at the beginning of 2017, and it had one of the most powerful moral messages tied to a game that I've experienced, and I find that to be the best thing a game can deliver if it's trying to do anything. Have you learn, have you grow as a person with the game, and I feel like the title itself is indicative of exactly the story it's trying to tell. I think it does a good job of that. The biggest complaint with Final Remix is that the controls aren't that good, but I hate to break it to people, the controls on the original game on the DS weren't that great, and even on the phone version, I had heard and also experienced with my own play that it wasn't that great. So I wasn't too surprised come the Final Remix that the controls still weren't that good. The gameplay systems are very unique. There's nothing like The World Ends With You, and that's what I like so much about the game. There are pins in this world that represent a sense of style, and then there are districts throughout the game world that you explore that maybe favorite a certain style of pin. And if you are using that top tier pin, its effects are multiplied and the player earns bonuses. So it constantly suggests to you to switch up your pins, aka your attacks, but it also kind of works in this stylistic sense with the title. Furthermore, these pins are activated by unique interactions that I think worked best on the DS because it was an original dual screen experience. So you'd control your top screen with the D-pad, and then the bottom screen would be with the stylus, and you'd have to sometimes blow into the microphone and stuff to activate abilities. It was really, truly unique. But with this game on the Switch, it's more of the touchscreen and Joy-Con usage. But let me tell you what, man, between the story, the character concepts, the gameplay systems, The World Ends With You is such a unique title that deserves attention, and Square Enix has gone out and said that if this one gets enough support, they will do a sequel. And I have to say, man, that if you do own a Switch, this is a must play because the original game was so good and the story hasn't changed. In fact, they've only added more with Final Remix. So you still have that tremendous original package there. It's not a super long investment. It's not a super huge game. And around this time of the year, it's probably on sale. You can definitely get it for a nice discount, and I highly recommend, out of every game on this list, this is the one that Switch owners take the biggest look at. That'll conclude my top 5 hidden gems for 2018. I'd love to hear what yours are in the comments down below, so do fire away, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.